Hi everyone, welcome back to Sunday School. My name is Annabelle and I'm joined by the other teachers Jennifer, Julie, and Joan, as well as our pastor Richard. Have you heard of the term Indigenous Peoples? The word indigenous means originating or occurring naturally in a particular place, or native. All over the world, there are people indigenous to every nation, but today we will be focusing on Canada's Indigenous peoples, also commonly known as the First Nations. Tomorrow is actually National Indigenous Peoples Day, so there's no better time to learn more about this topic right now. Do you know whose land you're living on right now? Sure, we live in the province of British Columbia, but before this land was colonized and stolen by the British and French, you can see on this map of Indigenous territories that what we know as the city of Vancouver right now is also the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples who have called this land home exponentially longer than anyone else. Let's click on languages too. We see that a common native language in the area is Halkomelem. Do you know how to say good day in Halkomelem? Swayel. Can you try saying that? This is what Swayel looks like written, and I think it's really cool. Since colonization, which is the act of settling among and establishing control over the indigenous people of an area, there have been many other sad and devastating things that colonizers have done to indigenous peoples, and this actually ties into the church as well. You may have heard about residential schools before, but if you haven't, they were schools funded by the government and ran by churches that took indigenous children by force away from their families and homes. The purpose of these schools was to erase all of the children's own culture, language, and family so that they would assimilate into white Canadian society. An estimated total of 150,000 children attended these residential schools where they faced abuse, torture, malnutrition, and even death at the hands of the church. While this may just seem like something that happened a long time ago, that's not the case at all. While the Presbyterian Church in Canada adopted the Confession to God and to Indigenous people for its role in the Indian residential school system in 1994, the last residential school in Canada closed in 1996. This was only 25 years ago, which means that generations of Indigenous grandparents, parents, and even young adults continue to experience the trauma of their time or the time of their loved ones in these residential schools. Recently, you may have been hearing more about this on the news. Last month, the Tukulumps-Deswapum First Nation discovered an unmarked burial site containing the remains of 215 children at the former Kamloops Residential School in British Columbia. Since then, many more have been uncovered in residential schools across Canada. Remember that these are not just the number of children who died or were killed in residential schools. These recent discoveries are the children whose deaths the church hid and never recorded on official death records. This is why there are orange shirts everywhere, to remind us of the past and honor the Indigenous children who had to suffer. But what do we do now? What can we do now? Well, we should always keep learning to bring more awareness to ourselves and to those around us. Understand the relationship between the church and the Indigenous community in Canada, and recognize the suffering and trials Indigenous people have had to go through because of the church and government. So, have things changed? What's next? Remember, as long as we're learning and having these sorts of conversations, and more importantly, acting on what we've learned, there's hope for a better future. Currently, one thing the Presbyterian Church in Canada has done as a part of their Healing and Reconciliation program is develop a resource called Reconciliation Activities for Children. If you didn't know, the word reconciliation means the restoration or building of friendly relations, and as you can see, this is a great resource for learning about the beauty of Indigenous culture and the impacts of colonialism. The link for this activity booklet will be in the description box below. I encourage you all to take a look at it with your families and even try a few of the activities. Things that happened in the past aren't always rightly representative of Christ's love for us all, but we can always aim to do better and show what Christ's love really looks like to those around us. Remember, love provides healing, and there are so many ways to do it, whether through serving, listening, learning, or giving. Thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again soon.